What's up, y'all? LTJ Reads here. This is Throwing Light. And if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. We have another Let's Vote special with the same panel we had before. Before we get started, I want to remind y'all, please learn about Asheville Sexual Health and Wellness in Austin, Texas. They started off doing this with me. I support them. They do a lot for our community. They do a lot for our sexual health, our mental health. They even have a food bank to help the community. So, if anything, why don't you go over there and learn how to donate? AshwellATX.org. You can donate from anywhere in the world, or if you want to learn about their services, go there. All right, we're going to kick it back over. I guess this is like Let's Vote Part 2, but I didn't call it that. But I want to welcome back our panel from our last time, with first starting with my head judge at my step down in Austin, Texas, as Mr. Austin Eagle. I am now in the shadows operating. Yes, and I love it so much more already. I went to a contest, Tobias. I went to the personal gear contest. And when they said, if you have a title come up on the stage, I was so glad to stand there and just clap everybody on. It was so wonderful doing that. Tobias, welcome back.
Thank you, baby. Thank you so much for
Yes.
having me. Spaces like this are so necessary. We can't stress the importance, especially in this election time. And I'm honored to be here. I'm all rallied out. You can hear it in my voice. You can hear it in the yelling. My son Demarcus right there below. We've been rallying, canvassing, making calls, talking voter registrations. I am rallied out. So I'm ready to get this ass whipping over with. Let's get it over with. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. That's what I want to hear. Hello, and my IMO brother Vince Jay. How are you? I'm so glad to see you again.
I'm good. I'm good. Here from the Windy City of Chicago. Just buckling down and bracing for the next couple days. I know it's going to be a lot going on, but we're here for it.
Vince is my brother, y'all. Hey, Vince. All right, Demarcus. Hello. You're up now, a two-timer here on
Yes,
Throwing Light. There you go.
yes. Hello from originally the city of Atlanta, but this week I'm in the city of Fort Lauderdale by the sea. So thank you again for having me. I look forward to a wonderful discussion tonight.
I am going to Fort Lauderdale in December, and I'm going to be staying by the sea, so I might need some details on, some places or whatever, because
What's the date you coming?
the 12th through the 15th of December.
Okay, we'll talk.
But show. Austin, hello. This is like when we get over to Houston and we go to, I'll call my leather cousins. Hello, Austin, my leather cousin in Houston. How are you doing?
Hi, cousin. Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm planning to probably come see y'all again in December, the third weekend. I love coming up.
Okay.
A good time. I just wish y'all wouldn't let me drink so much when I go over there. I really wish. I got so many parking tickets because of that. So, I had to leave my vehicle.
As long as you leave your vehicle, hey, that's
Well, this
that's
is the
that's
deal.
great.
I parked some like I've done this twice where it's like I parked too far up by the sign I don't know, but it's can't happen again. Okay, so
Okay. We'll teach you where the good spots are.
no, I'm just going to Uber there, or y'all come pick me up or something
All
because
right, we'll figure it out.
getting too many tickets there, Austin, over me not being able to get in my vehicle. Okay, so here we go. All right, y'all, we are back. This is going to be just a conversation. We are 2 days away from the election. I am actually in a very optimistic, a very pumped mood because I believe that this country truly, truly, truly wants to move forward in a direction where we can all just be at peace. I believe the majority of this country wants peace. So, everybody, before we get started, I do want to point out that Stormy is not going to be joining us tonight. We sent her our love. She couldn't make it, but we will be seeing more of her in the future. With that getting said, let's kind of start and kick things off, y'all. Where I'm at in the headspace right now is we're 2 days away from the election. A lot of things that people bring up were polls and things like that and not believing it. Look, you can find whatever you want to feel about the election anywhere on the internet. If you want to feel like the Republicans are winning, you can find a poll that does that. If you want to feel like a Democrat, like you can be at peace and have whatever reality you want. But as you know, they have released a poll, which is an Iowa poll, which they think is a very, very significant poll and comes very, very accurate in polling. And Kamala Harris is now taking the lead by 3% in Iowa. This is yeah, and I do want to point out there in the last couple of days has been just every day from these MAGA people insulting a group of people every day. And I think it's just ultimately this people are having enough of this. You're after Haitians, you're after Puerto Ricans, everything. It's just like it's always this us and them mentality, and we're just sick of it. I do want to also point out that I am a very, very pro women taking action this year. I'm the type of thing they're saying, women don't secretly vote blue with your husband. Do whatever you need to do. Think about it. Do whatever you need to do right now, women. That's what y'all need to think about. If you are a Republican woman, a Democrat woman, an independent woman, y'all need to band together to defeat MAGA because that is not the same thing as any of you guys. So with that little bit of information there, let's dive in and go in. Let's start with you, Vince. So what's going on? What's in your head?
So many things. A little bit of anxiety. I'll be real with you. There's just so much at stake. It's hard to not be a little nervous here. When I think back to 2016 and how, I think a lot of us went into that evening thinking like, okay, hey, finally we're gonna see this, like the glass ceiling shattered. We're gonna see Hillary, like the first woman president, and then to see it go in a very opposite direction, just I don't know if I've ever really recovered from that, or if any of us have. Really, this country, I think, really needs to move forward. So I'm cautiously optimistic. All of us, I think, here on this panel have been just working our butts off to try to make sure we've got everyone in our communities involved and registered to vote. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be what happens in some of these really key battleground states on November 5th. So I'm praying, I'm hoping. I'm still doing everything I can to rally my folks here locally. You know, uh, I'm just I don't know. I'm here for the ride, I guess. I don't want to be too overly optimistic, but I do have hope.
Good. I want to say, I remember exactly what I was doing in the 2016 election because when I saw Wisconsin go red, I was like, what is happening? Like, because I've known enough just as watching, things, learning about the Electoral College and how states should vote and all those types of things. And when I saw that happen, I was like, these are significant states that Hillary needs to win. Um, at that time, I don't, I think that we all suffer from trauma from just Trump in general. We're all like, we all need therapy. They need to pass a therapy bill once they get, they need to pass that. Tobias, what are you thinking? What's going on? How are you working it over there in ATL?
Um, I'm really voicing the sentiments of Vince. I mean, we've shared so many different um, ideas, but one thing we need to keep in mind is that MAGA isn't it's an idea of the translation of what the Republican Party think they are, is what they think they are. So this is a total perpetuation. This is not politics. This is way out of the bounds of politics. I'm okay with you being Republican, but when you say you're MAGA, that's buzzword that no matter what we say, what I say, or what you say is going to be something that either one of us can use. So I would implore anyone, do not even discuss any level of politics with anyone once they give you a buzzword.
Yeah,
Now, what I will say is that I do have key points that are on the ballots for me, not only just under Project 2025, but for me personally. And I can only just say this one time. I look at the polls, but I don't stick by the polls. I research several different sources around to come up with one collective decision. So for me, trans rights are definitely on the books. Women bodily autonomy and abortion rights are on the books. Funding of HBCU colleges, which I'm an alumni of HBCU, funding colleges, police brutality. Let's not forget, police still are not exempt from prosecution, but we need to make sure that if we want to make sure that the police are doing what they want to do, we need to take away qualified immunity. And if you're going to shoot somebody without having any type of repercussions, then you need to face those criminal charges as responsible as you did what you did. That's the other thing. Department of Education, that's big for me. Banning of books in grade schools. And lastly, but not least, our power is in our local voting constituents. Zoning and redistricting, pay attention because they're cutting counties in half that are predominantly white voting and white or red voting and cutting a small portion of the black community out. So it makes the blue counties smaller and the red or more white dominated counties more powerful and bigger for our voting elections. Let's pay attention to local elections. That's what's on my mind.
Yeah, that's a thing too. I just think it's fascinating the way that things are operating. But like you said, going back to MAGA is like not even it's not a political movement. I mean, it's a cult. It really is a cult mentality because there's nothing that you can say. Like, and you, to your testament, I tell people just keep your mouth shut and vote this year because there can't be anybody's mind who is not made up at this point. Whoever these people say in their mind not made up, and there are these weird people, but you can't, just from a fundamental of how government should work, you should be alarmed. It just, and so I don't know. So Austin, where's your head at? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I shadow a lot of what has already been said, where I have this intense anxiety that's just ever present in the background, but I'm trying my best to remember I can only control my own life and doing what I can. And so I'm working on practicing my own like self-preservation right now. What do I need to do to keep my anxiety as low as possible, to continue my everyday? My 3-year wedding anniversary is on election day. And so it just feels very omniscient that my marriage is on the line on my anniversary on election day. And that brings up a lot of anxiety for me. But I'm naming that, I'm calling that out, and I'm doing what I can to make sure that I'm taking care of my own self and my sanity and my family. So through all of this, through the next couple of hours, as CNN has already started their countdown, it's working on. I know what I'm doing, and my immediate family knows what they're doing, but we just need to preserve our own health, our own mental health, and anxiety right now.
I think that's a great point. It is. It sucks. I get up and I know this is happening. Like I want it to be over, but I just don't want the drama. And as some of us might be aware, and I know this is really the ultimate strategy is for Trump to call early victory and cause election chaos. So that is most likely what we're going to experience. How it pans out, what these MAGA people will do, but obviously they are a threat. So, Tobias, go ahead.
And keep in mind also, as of today, as of 6 p.m. today, here locally in Atlanta, there's constantly already 133 lawsuits from the Trump side already on election frauds. So just get ready, buckle up, and keep in mind also that some counties in some states are already starting to pre-count the ballots up into once the election starts, and then they add them in. So we need to be educated voters and not letting anything slip through the cracks. So thank you.
Voting for me was actually easy for me this year. Like, I went in there with the mentality that I'm not voting for a person here. Like, I mean, why would I vote red in any way this election? It just doesn't, there's nothing over there that makes me feel safe as a person, that seems educated, that seems unified. It just is destruction. And we have this, and what I don't want to go through is another election where the Republicans win by the electoral college, not the popular vote. Kind of going back to the Hillary thing. Austin I will not give it a blue. I would say it's a purple spot in Texas, maybe one of the more liberal cities in the South. Houston gives it a good run for its money. I think Houston's pretty cool in terms of diversity. But I get it, the fear of like, what if the polling's wrong? But there's just something different going on, even from 2008 this time, where I really think, in this last haul and everything, people are really like, we can't do this. Like, we have to. I mean, you have celebrities that don't typically come out for politics coming out this year. You have tons of Republicans that I would have never thought in 2000, 2004 would have even endorsed a Democrat at all. And I'm not saying that's a great thing like Dick Cheney's endorsement or anything like that, because Dick Cheney, we all know, is not a great guy, but he endorsed her. And there has to be a sincere threat if people are coming to this level of, you know what, we're going to forget everything. Like, we're going to forget all our issues with Democrats right now, and we just want to help y'all get to the finish line. That has not happened before. I don't know any historical moment where that's happened. Demarcus, what are you doing? What are you thinking about this?
Honestly, I think after the rally in Madison Square Garden, um, if you were not paying attention to that rally, and if you have not watched it, I think you need to pay attention to that rally between now and the day that you go to vote on Tuesday, or um, because of the simple fact that they just did not attack. They attacked basically every race at that rally and talked about everything. And if you can't make up your mind after that, and then for him to go out and then put his name on the damn garbage truck, literally on the concourse, and barely could open the door, your mind should be made up on the right choice, the choice that is going to help your family and your household. Because of the simple fact that I had to tell a friend the other day, I said, okay, let's go back and think in time, okay? Say, for instance, you grew up in the projects and your grandparents and y'all are living in a one-bedroom apartment, and your grandparents own SSI, and y'all are all trying to make the house function. If he gets in office and takes away SSI, that's one income that's gone. So now everybody else is struggling to try to support that one income that's coming in, and y'all are already struggling now. So what does that leave? What's your choice? Make the right choice.
The thing is that we have this skewed reality where you have two different view, like there this, and it comes down to Fox News. When I look at headlines, I see what all the general headlines, and I pop over to Fox News just to make sure they're not reporting the regular news because it's something that they don't like or not favorable to them. Case in point, going back to the Madison thing, but still the level of in inflammatory language, the fact that these people do these really toxic things, and then when that happens to them, they're like, "Oh my God, blah blah." It's just like Trump is the biggest man baby I've ever seen in my entire life, and it's just almost pathetic. But what I see here a lot though, and what is interesting is the idea of us being able to not only defeat Trump, but defeat Trump with what I believe has been doing a great job and at least trying to be in every space, which is Kamala Harris. Tobias,
Right.
what do you got?
Yeah, I just want to say, and I know we use his name, and we use his name a lot in these spaces and publicly, but we got to keep in mind that Trump just didn't appear to this level of power. As a country, we have given him the fuel and the licensing to perpetuate racist behavior. We've given him this power as a country. There is a base, unfortunately, and with reality, that he appeals to, be it far right, be it center, slightly right. He appeals to a base. And a portion of the American people, unfortunately, see things in his favor. And as a country, in order, no matter how central, how far left, how far right, we still have to exist in this space. But what I want to really say is that America created Trump. They created him. And that base of ideas needs to be destroyed. And as I've said on several public platforms, even in some of my articles, and I had this conversation with Stacey Abrams, who was supposed to be the governor of Georgia, when she was with the Fair Fight campaign. Speaking of racism that Demarcus spoke about from the Madison Square Garden on last Sunday, until we criminalize racism
That
on,
part.
on a three-tier level, on
That
a three-tier level, verbally, physically, or implied, and that's not the Boy Scout honor. That's verbally, physically, or implied. Nothing is going to change because people don't understand anything until you hit them in. So if we want to push those races back and up into the hills of Tennessee or into the barrels of Mississippi, nothing is going to change until we actually criminalize racism. So that's
Thank you,
just my
guys.
idea.
I wanted to bring that point up. I wanted to say that criminalizing racism, and that was only going to piss off a racist, and that's what I love about it.
It
Who's going to
shouldn't.
care about
It shouldn't.
criminalizing racism? And then go back to the Madison thing. Racism, racist jokes are only funny to racists. Something that these people, and I've heard this come out of Hispanic supportive MAGA people, is that everybody's a little racist. No, everybody is not a little racist. You can't justify and normalize racism. That's normalizing racism. I agree with you 100%, Tobias. Let's have the criminalization. Let's make them shake. Let's make them squirm. But we have to criminalize racism. I mean, it's absolutely is vile, evil, shit.
And
That's
it puts all of us on notice. Not, I know, I don't think anyone in this room is racist or potentially racist, but it puts all of us on notice that this is a standard. Like, I live in London as well. There are certain words that you cannot use that are deemed racist. When you're talking about our Pakistani brothers and sisters, our Turkish brothers and sisters, there are certain words that we find or that we say here in America that are criminalized in the UK. Criminalized. And you guys probably have heard some of those words, but we need to be sure that we are in a place where words really matter because words are perpetuated through children, from their parents. We learned them through, a white woman with pearls with two little kids crossing the street because a black man is coming down the sidewalk. This thing is real. This country needs a freaking reset. We need a serious reset and going in a different direction. And I honestly think that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz is going to mop the floor with them. My brother Vince said that he's a little nervous anxiety from Austin. I'm ready for this shit. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get it over with. Yeah.
there you go. I agree. Austin, what do you think?
No, I mean, I am being hopeful as the best that I can. I mean, I'm looking at all the results. I'm looking at the polling, like you say, and I'm just talking to people, and it feels hopeful. It really does. And so I'm preparing for the worst, but I do feel hopeful, and that's something that I truly do feel. You can feel a sense in the air of we've got a chance with this. We've got a chance that if he's knocked down this time, he's not getting up again. And sure, there might be another Republican that's bad later down the line, but let's get through. Let's kill the Wicked Witch this time.
Yeah.
Let's knock him out. And so I'm riding on that hope the best one I can.
I agree. This is round 3. This is the final round. Like we got to just knock him. He's never won an election, y'all. He's not going to win on the popular vote. We know that. It's impossible. And what they've been doing this past week, like I said, the way they've just been, in the way I don't understand how there's nobody talking to him, being like, don't just, it's wild stuff. And then to have the inflammatory language, them being upset, saying that Kamala Harris is being strict on their language, and you're talking about guns training in the face of Liz Cheney. So it's just kind of like,
There's no reasoning with a narcissist.
why say that? You don't have to say things like that.
These are buzzwords. These are buzzwords and sound bites that people are coding to send those signals out. stand by, stand down. No, stand back, stand by. Whatever his signal was to the Proud Boys. There are buzzwords. And ironically, Demarcus mentioned Madison Square Garden. If you haven't done so, go Google Madison Square Garden, 1939. Some of the language and words that the Nazis were saying in the Madison Square Garden in 1939 are some of the same words that some of the speakers were using. So these are code words to whatever uprising that they think that they're going to do. The National Guard is allegedly already summoned and ready to go for Tuesday in certain key cities. So people who are fearful of people with guns, they're not the only ones that have weapons. They're not the only ones. So we should walk into this thing as brave as possible. Like my grandmama used to always say, there are some things that you're just absolutely going to be afraid of that you have to do. So you're just going to have to do it afraid and scared. This is one thing we're going to have to walk through and just do it. And knowing that we're going to come out victorious. I feel this thing in my spirit, like in my bones. Everyone that I know, from one side of my friends to the other side of my family, have put their best foot forward for this. And this momentum has to be a reward at the end. It has to be. Right, Vince?
I sure as hell hope so.
What I wanted to say is that you have women that are coming for Kamala that are older because they know what it was like before Roe v. Wade was in place. So, and the fact that the way they've simplified the word abortion in politics to make it well, I'm against abortion. That's all that matters. Like, it's not that, it's not even, abortion is a whole complex conversation about different factors and things. None of it is about killing babies. Not a single discussion about it. It doesn't make any sense. The opposite of pro-life is anti-life. So that means if you don't give me food, if you don't educate me, if you don't give me clothing, then you are not pro-life. Am I correct? I think so. What do you think, Vince?
I would agree 100%. I think a lot of folks focus on one aspect of this election, or like you said, the reproductive rights or abortion, like you said. And even myself, I'm originally from Florida, which is a really unique place, and from a very conservative family who, like, to this day, I have a lot of folks in my family, in my blood family, who vote on that single issue alone, and they won't look past that. But yet, at the same token, they don't want to give the basic rights and privileges to immigrants, or like you said, housing, food, education, things that are so vital, and things that actually you would think would be part of the ethos of someone who claims to be of a faith background. And that hypocrisy to me is what really just burns me, is that some of these same people that will be so self-righteous, on one aspect, can yet come back on the other hand and just I don't know, cut their nose off to spite their face. And it just, I don't know, I don't understand it. But at least hopefully those of us who are aware can see the difference and see that there is some gray area here, and hopefully get other folks to come on board.
It's a tough one, but I try to tell them, like, pro-choice is not the opposite of pro-life. They're two different conversations. And the fact that most Americans don't know that I think there's like 11 definitions for the word conservative and 7 for the word liberal, or vice versa. We don't even use conservative and liberal right here. And I hate it when someone just like, oh, like I had someone from like my hometown, uh, me being for social rights is not a liberal conservative thing. This is a fundamental, I just want to live my life type of decision. So like that should never, no one should be saying I'm liberal because I'm out there living my life and facing my sexuality and facing all of my things. Like that's my choice. That's my gift. Like we are all given sexuality. So, but I don't know. Back to you, Austin.
In what sense? What was the question?
Whatever you want to talk about.
I'm out here living my life queer as fuck, and I am in a place where I am comfortable in my skin, and I don't want that right taken away from me. I don't want that right taken away from women. I don't want that right taken away from anybody. Everybody should have the chance to discover who they are and to live that fully. And so this is a very important time, and I hear that. I feel like we hear that every single election. This is an important election. Do everything you can, but it truly feels like this is at the top of the hill. We've just got to make it on the other side. And that goes for our presidential election. That goes for our senators. That goes for our mayor. It's not just president that's on the line. If you want to make real change in your community, make real change starting with your local elections and pay attention to the people that are trying to gerrymander. Pay attention to what's happening around you in all cases.
It's crazy the way that they're like it's just so much crime, and we know in this election. Demarcus, you're in Georgia, which out of any, Austin are in Texas, Vince is in Illinois. Texas is traditionally red. There's a fight going on here. We're getting closer. I think that you might see this state flip blue one day. Illinois, we know, is a blue state. We know we got y'all, so that's good. But Georgia, and I'm gonna come back to Tobias too with this. Demarcus, Georgia. I think they might be tied there, or is Trump up a little bit? There's just a lot of focus on the state of Georgia. And, does that bring lots of tensions from what you're experiencing? Does it feel like it's deadlocked in that state?
I don't honestly, I don't think it's going to be deadlocked. Um, by polls, it does say that they are tied. But honestly, again, I think once people do their actual research, and then you also have these women that their husbands are Trump supporters, but they're voting on the other side, as they say, they're taking off the sheet and coming out and voting the opposite direction of their husband. Um, Also, you have just in general, I think there were some undecided voters. And I think after they have done their research, I think Georgia's going to mop the floor again, as Master Tobias said. I think it's going to be blue again. I think we're going to still continue to be blue again for this election. And as Austin was saying, it is your local election too that you have to pay attention to. A lot of people think you only are supposed to vote for the presidential race. No, you have to vote in every election, and you have to pay attention to those that are not for us. And the only way to stick it to them and get them out of office is to go to and vote during the local election. If they're not for us, why are we continuing to not go to the polls and vote during the local election? If you're trying to get rid of us and outcast us, we need to go vote them out. And that's where we stick them to them at the best, at the polls.
I've had the opportunity to actually march. I marched in the Pride Parade with Mayor candidate Doug Greco, who is our first openly gay mayor candidate. So if you are watching this, you're in Austin, please, Doug Greco, hop online, learn. He's a fantastic guy. I've
He's
had the
great.
opportunity of being around him for a lot. So you got to meet Doug too, right? Yeah,
Yes,
Doug
I did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to Tobias now and kind of because again, so the Georgia energy right now. What's the Georgia energy?
Well, let's start with from 2020. President Biden cleared Georgia by a little bit more than 12,000 votes. That's pretty close. Georgia, Atlanta itself, the metro Atlanta area, is comprised of 7.6 million people, and that's between 7 different counties. Anything 1 mile outside of that is all red in ideas and in voting. Black, white, Hispanic, whatever. We need to make sure that in 2024 that Georgia is going to clear. My prediction is more than 200K just to make sure, but I think the temperature in the room is Georgia and Florida are just going to go blue. That's just based on myself making my rounds around the state, listening to more podcasts than the polls, keyword more podcasts than the polls. I just think that the energy is so high that it's undeniable. And I've said that even in mentoring certain people, you have to make whatever you're doing in contests as well as this election undeniable. And if you do that, you won't be ignored. You won't be ignored. So I think Georgia's going to go blue. Numbers 200K more.
Demarcus, so are you, in terms of Black gay men in the community, are you running into any of them that are voting for Trump?
I'm not even running into that. I'm running into Black gay men that says this doesn't even matter to them. That's what I'm running into. And I had to have a conversation with Black gay men in general and go back and tell them, okay, let's go back in actual history. Dr. Martin Luther King and everybody from John Lewis, they did not stand on the bridge in Selma to fight for where we are today. They did do that because they did it. Rosa Parks didn't sit in the back of the bus. She sat in the front of the bus, and they had to literally fight her and take her to jail because guess what? They wanted us to move forward. We're not trying to go back. We're trying to move forward. And I had to tell them, if you think this doesn't affect you, it affects all of us. It affects me, everybody on here, and everybody that looks like me. As far as a Black gay man, as far as being in an interracial relationship, I mean, again, it affects everybody. It affects aunties, aunts, moms, dads, all of that, because everything literally is on the line, and they have to go vote. They were like, "Oh, I'm not going to even register." What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't, I mean, you know, there was only one election since I've been able to vote since 2004. And the only election I did not vote in was 2012. And that was the one between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. And that's because I was so jaded by where I thought we were going to go and we didn't go there. And I just felt like Obama gave all his power up after his first 2 years, trying to accommodate these people that now are MAGA that he was never going to win over. This is a retaliation of his presidency. I want people to understand that. Trump was a retaliation of Obama's presidency. And the thing is that you can pinpoint when he decided he was going to run for president is when I think they were at this that roast thing they do where all the politicians get together, and Obama made a joke about Trump, and obviously because he's a sensitive poo nanny, he couldn't take the joke. Then there's this thing in the movie, which one? It's Nixon, the movie Nixon. Okay. If y'all know about this, Nixon was super obsessed with JFK because obviously he ran against him in 1960. He lost. Nixon did get to come back to the White House in 1972. But that energy of the way that JFK was held up on this pillar and thing, he hated it because he felt that who people really were him, and who people wanted to be was JFK. And there are stories and stuff of Trump wanting Obama's picture removed and all this because of the gravitas of how people loved Obama, and so Trump isn't loved in that way. He's loved by all these horrible people. But Vince, demographically, are you struggling in any way? I know you had your huge voter registration when we were on here last time. We talked about that. Are there people telling you that they're not going to vote because they don't care or it doesn't matter?
I have to say, like, I feel very, very fortunate to live in Chicago, which is very, very blue, place at this point in time. I mean, I'll say anecdotally, like, basically, I went yesterday. I was taking a friend to the polls who needed a ride, basically, to try to early vote. And we got there, and one guy coming out of line, he said he'd been waiting over 2 hours in line to vote. this is for the early voting. This is supposed to be like the, you get in, you get it done. So I mean, from everything I'm seeing right now, what gives me a lot of hope is seeing the energy behind folks who are just so absolutely committed to making sure that like their vote is in, their vote counts, that we've got lines of people waiting over 2 hours right now, here in the city of Chicago. So as far as other folks I've talked to, during the voter registrations, I've got so many people come up to me like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for being here." Um, there's a lot of folks I think that just it's a matter of convenience, or it's a matter of like timing for them, or that they're moving around. But I really haven't felt too much pushback from folks saying like, "Well, I just don't care, or this doesn't really matter to me." So I guess in that sense, I'm feeling very, very fortunate, very blessed here, at least in Chicago.
So my cousin Austin, look, I think regardless of how this election pans out, I know that me, you being in the state of Texas, our network, I know that we should really utilize this moment to stay in a positive headspace and support our community. You know, let's talk about how we haven't talked much about how we feel here in Texas, Austin, and I think that for me coming from Louisiana, that was predominantly black and white, and now coming into this would say new piece for someone coming away with a very tense white black population to the Hispanic population here. And I have run into a lot of people that were upset with the garbage floating island of garbage types of things, though. But in terms of diversity in our community, I would say Houston's pretty diverse. Are there any instances of maybe like certain mini smaller communities that might be less motivated in Houston, or do you find that it's difficult to motivate a type of person to vote, as we've been talking about here in Texas?
The people that I've talked to absolutely want to vote. It's the hurdles that the voting process are in place that make it hard for people to actually follow through with their vote. And so that's been the issue that I've run into, whether it be registering to vote is a hard enough process on its own. And then people have jobs, people have to take care of their children and families, and sometimes can't make it unless it's on a weekend to go to the early voting. And so those are the very few opportunities. And if you've only got an hour window for daycare and then the lines are long, you may just give up. And so there's so many hurdles that are in place to start the process to then end the process. That's what I've seen the most of people running into. But I feel like a lot of people are feeling really inspired, very impassioned right now, not just because of presidential, but also to get rid of Ted Cruz. People seem very excited, and that Colin Allred really has a very good chance at this. So we're very hopeful. And from the people that I've talked to, they're trying to get past each of these hurdles. I've drove people to the voting centers. I had a woman in North Carolina call me and ask about her voting process and how does she make sure that she's registered. So we're all helping each other where we can to hold hands to get past these hurdles, to use our momentum for good and to actually make real change.
The tactics that I'm seeing here that they're using, they're going to the military and the train stuff. That's how they're fighting already right now. And I'm trying to watch YouTube for free, so I have to watch these ads. And so,
Right, right.
they have the anti-all-red ads, and it's like saying that he's pushing the transition kid, like someone saying they're going to transition kids without parents' permissions in school. Just ridiculous stuff. Ridiculous stuff, but someone probably believes that. All right, we're going to start pivoting towards our final words here. I want to come back to you, Demarcus. We wake up November 6th, Wednesday morning. The election is over. How are we feeling? How'd it go? What are we doing, Demarcus? What does that look like for us?
First, I'm just going to say this. Before we even get to November 6th, just make sure you have a self-care plan for yourself. Protect your own mental health. Regardless of the outcome, we shouldn't gloat on whichever candidate we vote for or whichever side wins. We can be happy within our house, but once we go outside the walls, let's just keep it real. We can be excited, whichever way it goes. That's what I'm going to say, because it could go either way. but I hope it goes one way and the best way. But um, November 6th, hell yeah, I'm going to be excited. If we wake up and Georgia's blue again, and we've come across that finish line, and the president says, hey, this is what has been deemed as our president for 4 years, yes, I'm excited. I'm ready to go out and celebrate, but I shouldn't go out and celebrate because I know that it could be dangerous.
I think, yeah,
So,
it's unfortunate it has to be that way. But I think, yeah, what I think is that we have two things, and I want to, and when I come back to Austin, or let's go ahead and get your final word here to Austin. My thing is that let's say we did lose, and us as leaders in this community, we have a job to get our headspace up because our community is going to feel down. So we're going to need to come together and probably pretty soon just to get our morale up. But if we win, it's an opportunity to have the conversations like, are we going to criminalize racism? All like push it all out while we have the opportunity. Let's not do what we did when Obama had those first 2 years and try to negotiate. No one wants to negotiate with us. And for me, this election, if you're not voting blue, you're not acting right, unfortunately. Austin, final words. Like, how do you see us coming? I gave you two scenarios for here in Texas, okay? How do you see Wednesday morning after the election?
Personally, I feel like we're not going to have finalized results by Wednesday, and that's my own opinion. I think it's going to take a couple of days between lawsuits that are already in place. Some places, if it's within a certain margin, you have to do a recount. Those laws are written in. I don't think we're going to have results by Wednesday, but I hope to have them very soon afterwards. But I just want to keep in mind, we are not electing a best friend. We're electing somebody that's going to work for us, and so we need to hold them accountable. Whoever ends up winning, they're going to do some good things, they're going to do some bad things, and we need to hold our politicians responsible for their actions. There are real consequences. This is a matter of people's lives. And so I am very hopeful. I know who I want to win, but at the end of the day, I'm going to continue fighting because I deserve to live here, and so does everyone else.
Good, good. But I am going to push out that I'm not paying my. I'm not. If we're going to have a conversation about taking my tax money, that's what we're going to be having conversations about. Because
We
if
can go on a long conversation about that. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, like if I'm not a person, if you don't deem me as a human being, why am I giving you my money? It doesn't make any sense. Let's cut back over to Vince, and then we're gonna wrap up with Tobias. Vince, final words. You are in a very different atmosphere than the rest of us, as you have, as we've had this conversation. With still, Illinois and Chicago is an important city. It's an important state. Illinois is an important state. What advice do you have for us in these red states as we move forward in the election with you being in a blue state?
That's a that's a good one. I along with everyone else hope we wake up Wednesday morning with a lot of reasons to celebrate. But again, it may be unknown for days or weeks. We've seen how this can play out. I think no matter what happens, I think something that's been brought up earlier that I think is worth repeating which is it's not just about who's in the White House, but it's who's in the local, arenas, and representing you locally at the national, state levels. Even in your neighborhood here in Chicago, we have alderpersons who basically like kind of run each ward within the city, and those are sometimes the level which those things happen that can really impact us, local level. So I think people should take note of who actually wins these local elections and make their voices heard at that level as well.
Right on. All right. And Master Tobias, you have the last word, my friend.
I think that we're going to be victorious, and I think it is going to come in on Wednesday morning. And as Austin said, that is my honest opinion. I do know that there are barriers, but after all is said and done, we all have to lead with kindness. And as I go to the airport to go to Mexico for 1 week on Friday, I will be wearing this shirt, and this is what I will be repping.
Is it orange? Is that an orange shirt?
Oh, yes, orange. Yeah, I flag orange too.
I know. Well, I orange people scare me, so I have like PST from Oompa Loompas and Trump.
You
So
know what? I kind of got the orange shirt for that very reason.
I thought maybe you were going with that, like she's kind of like the one that convicted the felon, kind of like we're flipping it type of thing. I don't know.
Baby, I just hope that we're victorious, and that I hope that the fallout from sensible people to radicalism is leveled, and everyone knows that we have to coexist in this space, and that is not going to change. That is one thing that is not going to change. We all have to coexist, and that we could do it amicably, no matter which direction it goes in.
So, with that being said, we're going to come to the end of this episode. I just want to tell everybody thank you so much. I'm glad that this was like coming back together after our last time we met. Nothing but love, positive energy for us, all of you, as we get through this. I am going to lean towards a mentality that I feel that this will be an overwhelming victory, that there won't need. I mean, the focus of where they want the recounts to be won't matter. That's what I kind of think. But all I want is peace, y'all, regardless of the outcome. I don't want anybody hurt or harmed. And this is not us talking. This is what I want people to understand. I know we're talking about politics, but we have to, because our identities are tied up into it. We're not wanting to be political whatsoever. We're trying to talk about humanity right here. And I need people to understand that the only reason we have to do these things and address these things is because people target these things and make us out to be something that they don't like just because we're different. We're never all going to be white. And I'm not going to be white. Tobias is not going to become white. Michael didn't become white. He thought he was still a black person. So the point of the matter is that that's not going to change. And you can try, and I know about racial past and all that, and sexual past and all that. At some point, you have to determine, is giving up yourself worth losing your voice, losing your individuality, losing your heritage, losing everything. And we're moving in a direction where a group of people want to strip us of who we are. And that is not ever a good outcome when you are stripped of who you are. I want everybody that remember this for this election to just please, please, please pray for peace, because I think that's the only thing that we need to be concerned with, is getting through this election peacefully. With that being said, that is the end of Throwing Light. I want to thank Austin, who will be on the show next week. Yes, so quickly. Vince, Demarcus, and Tobias. With that being said, I can't say voting right, you ain't acting right, because y'all don't think I'm saying voting Republican, and I'm not telling you to do that. So we're going to say, if you ain't voting blue, you ain't acting right. You ready? One, 2, 3.
If you ain't voting blue,
you're not acting right. That was the closest I've come. Yes, that was good. Well, that that's the end. This is
good seeing y'all.
Days, y'all. Good love, energy, vote.
Thank you.
Have a good night.